Thank you. NPL Slav, please.
Thank you very much. Has a report on exports of military goods from Canada report been tabled in Parliament since 2017?
I'll have to give you the answer later to that.
Thank you. And then the follow-up question to that is usually an annual report on export and import permits gets tabled in the House as well. And I'm wondering if there has been one since 2016.
The government has made a commitment to adhere to the Arms Trade Treaty. And under that commitment, which should be made official in a matter of months, there will be an annual report.
Has been one in the past, so I'm just wondering what is the most recent annual report of export and import permits that's been tabled in the House?
I'd be happy to provide that answer.
Thank you very much. So then could you give me an idea of the value, the annual value of our export of military goods?
Well, I'll also have to provide that answer to you later.
Perfect. That would be fantastic. So with that, could you tell me the number approximately of permits that are applied for every year?
We'll certainly provide that to you later on.
And then if you could also give me an idea of the number that are approved, and if you could tell me the average time frame for approval. And the reason that I ask that is because obviously our defense industry is critical to our sovereignty and our security. And being a small country of 37 million, our defense industry has about 80% of its revenue driven, obviously, from exports, not from sales specifically to the Canadian government and in support of the Canadian forces. So export permits, obviously, are fundamentally important to that revenue. And the numbers from 2016 were that it's over $1 billion annually. What I understand is that there has been a significant increase in approval times for export permits, even to those countries that are on the automatic firearms country control list and are even NATO allies. So our defense industry is suffering at the moment because of this increase in the time frame that it takes to have these export permits approved. I'm wondering if you could give me an idea of why there is an increase and if there has been any kind of policy or delegation of authority approval change in the process in the last 3 or 4 years.
I'm not aware of any change in the approval process or any delegated authority different from previous years, but I'd be very happy to provide additional detail later.
That would be really fantastic if you could, because my understanding is that the practice within the ministry was that many of those routine export permits could be approved at the public servant level for the countries that are on the AFCCL list. And yet now it appears that even for NATO countries and even for countries on that AFCCL list, that it actually needs to go personally to have the minister sign off on it, and that could perhaps be a result then in terms of the delay. Can you comment on that?
I don't believe there's been any change in that practice. The vast majority of all decisions are taken at the officials level when they adhere to our policy. A very, very small number go to ministers. But I will validate that statement for you because I do not believe that there's been any change in that practice.
All right, so then that's critically important, and if you could provide that information, because obviously then we would like to understand what then is the result of this additional timeframe delay, even that fact that it's jeopardizing obviously certain contracts and these companies' abilities to deliver on these contracts that they've entered into, and what perhaps we can advise companies to do to mitigate that risk, but also what we as elected officials can advocate for to support the department in terms of being able to process these permits more quickly. Could you give us any idea of what perhaps could be some of the challenges and what some of the things we might be able to help you with?
As I say, I believe the practice remains the same as it has been in many years. The only difference that we are now engaged with is our adherence to the Arms Trade Treaty, which will embed the criteria of this international treaty in our decision-making processes. But the fact that we are and will adhere to the Arms Trade Treaty doesn't mean we will suddenly start not issuing export permits. I think we will provide you data on exactly what the state of play is on that. But as I say, there has been no change to my knowledge in the practice of how decisions are made.
And I would appreciate if we could have that data over a 5-6 year period so that we can see the change in that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Alislev.